Greetings, welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name is Joe. Today I'm going to be doing another part of my ongoing series on platoon-level tactical games. We'll be taking a first look at the game Stalin's Triumph. This is a Nations at War game, and that is platoon-level combat from Lock and Load Publishing. So we'll take a look at this game. There will be a playthrough coming up. It'll get pretty much the same treatment that I just did for Fire in the Steppe from Panzer Grenadier, Avalanche Press. So this will be our lock and load entry. We will also see games from Compass Games, The Path to Hell from the War Storm series, as well as Platoon Commander Deluxe, Kursk from Flying Pig Games, and possibly some more too. We'll see how we do. So let's take a look here. So I already pulled the shrink off of this guy. So we're going to flip it over and look at the back of the box. So, Stalin's Triumph, clash of armor on the Eastern Front. Got a little bit of a typo here, but in a clash of the giants, the Soviet Red Army defends the motherland against its German invaders from such fearsome formations as the 2nd SS and 11th Panzer Division. Centered on the area of Kursk in 1943, Stalin's Triumph contains scenarios depicting the fighting in and around the northern and southern flanks of the battle, a battle that proved to be the largest tank battle in history. Stalin's Triumph is a complete game in the Nations at War series. The game includes Soviet units such as the famed Animal Killer, the Su-152, and the workhorse of the Soviet Army, the T-34. For Germany, there's a wide array of hardware such as Tigers and Mark IVs, but also unique vehicles such as the Flame Panzer and the dreaded Elephant. Also included are new rules for tank riders, commissars, fighter planes, Goliaths, and rockets. Battles depict actions around such famed areas as Prokhorovka and Ponieri. It's World War II, and the nations are at war. See, complexity is right in the middle of the scale. Solitaire is a 7 out of 10. It's for ages 12 and up, 1 to 2 players, 2 to 4 hours playing time. We get 4 sheets of over 350 counters, 4 geomorphic double-sided maps, 1 color module booklet, 1 color core game system version 2 manual, 2 11 by 17 unit cost sheets, 4 8.5 by 11 player aid cards, and 2 D6 dice. Producers for this are David Heath and Blackwell Hurd. Lead game design and development from Sean Drulinger. Module design, also Sean Drulinger. Art director, Mark von Marshall. Counter art, Mark von Marshall. He also did the maps. And box art and design from David Heath and Blackwell Hurd. So, as I mentioned, this is from Lock and Load Publishing, and this particular game came out in 2016. Okay, let's take a look inside the box. All right. So, 2 dice, 1 red, 1 white. We have our core rules version 3.0 still wrapped up here. We'll get into, well, let's just tear in here and see what we got, shall we? All right, so here's the, we have a turn record track, casualty boxes, fate points and formation cards and counters. So we'll talk about fate points and all that stuff here in a little bit. So here is our manual. It is nice, like magazine quality manual. You don't, or rule book if you prefer. You don't usually get like the cover is nice and thick. One of the things I really like about Lock and Load games, and this goes back to when Mark Walker was running the company, is their components are just really, really good. Really nice components. So this is a fairly thick 81-page manual, according to the table of contents, and there you go. Yeah, this is really nice. There's some starter kit stuff here in the back, but you can see the rules are fairly detailed. There is a lot of stuff in here, but not overly difficult stuff, if you will. Much like we saw with Panzer Grenadier, which had, I think, like about a 45-page manual. or a rule book. I keep saying manual. I've got computer games on my brain, and I can't speak correctly for some reason. I think, that's what's causing me to say manual instead of rule book. This is a rule book. Core Rules version 3.0 says so right there. Okay, so a lot of graphics and images in here. I was reading the digital version, to be honest, but you have, nice blown up looks at the counters with detail of what each thing means, of the various types, formations, leaders, HQs, close air support, etc. Where Panzer Grenadier was very focused on leaders, this one is focused on HQs, and HQs kind of get attached to a unit and move with the unit, and they have to kind of stay together. You do activate by formation, which is similar to what we had in Panzer Grenadier. So this system is really well developed. It's been around for a while. It's also used for World at War. Both the old version and now the new version is kind of a new iteration of basically the same, skeleton, I guess you would say. I'm still waiting for my World at War 85 Kickstarter that I backed last year. That one is supposedly coming in October, so we'll see. Looking forward to that, nevertheless. All good things come to those who wait, I suppose. So as you can see, there's a lot in here. Now, I mentioned fate points, and they're discussed right here, and battlefield chaos. So it's a chit draw game. You draw chits, and if you draw this chaos chit, then you roll 2d6, and there'll be a chart that I'm sure we'll see here in a little bit that kind of tells you what happens, and that kind of models the chaotic nature of warfare, right? Things definitely do not go to plan, and, so stuff happens, basically, right? There's a cruder way of saying that, but I'll just say stuff happens. And that kind of colors the way that can have an effect on how things shift, the fortunes of war, right? That's what this models. And then you have fate points, which will vary from scenario to scenario and will allow the players to kind of influence things by, a twist of fate, a little bit of luck or something. Like, you can, it says here, fate points can be thought of as currency and can be used to purchase an event that can change the game. That's kind of what it is. That's kind of a core thing in here as well. That gives it a little bit of a twist. So I like this. Some people probably not fond of it, but these are the little things between the systems that we're looking at that maybe ultimately when we get to the end and I do kind of a recap and look at all of the games that we're going to talk about, which will either be 4 or 6, we'll see, and kind of go through each one, and then you can make a determination of maybe which one works best for you. So there are a lot of things like that in here. Here's our fate point table of what you can purchase with those fate points. And again, the number of fate points you'll have based on whatever faction you're playing will vary from scenario to scenario, but you can use them to do things like re-rolling dice, making your opponent, I believe, re-roll their dice, maybe. Maybe not. Yeah, but you can see that you have, so I was wrong about that. I like I said, I read the rules online, and I don't remember everything, apparently, which isn't all that surprising. This happens to me fairly often. So you have all kinds of stuff in here. Overwatch, all the stuff you would expect to have in a tactical game is in this system. So, in that regard, it is much like some of the other things we've seen or will see going forward. Here we have another packet. Let me get into this one. And in here, we have our scenarios, module and scenario booklet. So we have a note. Again, there's a lot of content in here. And again, this is a thick booklet with a lot of color, full color graphics and all that stuff. I mean, I'm a fan. Let's just put it that way. I'm a fanboy here. This stuff looks great to me. Again, stuff about the unit colors, the nationality, special abilities, just like in Panzer Grenadier. You're going to have a variety of special rules based on the module and the scenarios you're playing. Obviously, the Eastern Front isn't going to be the same as North Africa, not going to be the same as Normandy, etc., etc. It won't be the same as Italy. Everything's going to have a little, or the Pacific for that matter. Not that there is a Pacific version of this yet, but you get the point. Things vary, so you have different, chrome, I suppose, or different flavor based on whatever theater you might be playing in, and also the time frame as well, of course. Stalin's organ, the Katyusha. And so, yeah, tutorial scenario. And there's a walkthrough. This is good stuff, right? Yep. And then you can see the dates here. I should have gotten to this a little earlier. Today is July 14th as I'm doing this. And the battle runs through basically July 12th, I guess. Well, we're still in the neighborhood at least, right? So lots of scenarios in here. Here we have our terrain effect chart and the counter terrain effect chart. So you have wire, anti-tank ditch. These are on counters that you can add. Obviously, you brew yourself up an armored fighting vehicle and get a wreck. That becomes part of the terrain that the units will have to deal with, and will have an effect on things such as defensive bonus for combat, movement costs, concealment for line of sight purposes. It does say line of sight determination here, ground level line of sight, etc. All the terrain with an example. I love examples. Panzer Grenadier does not have that, and I kind of miss it. But this, very nice. Obviously, Panzer Grenadier's terrain effects chart is ridiculous. It's like 3 pages because they have all kinds of stuff in there, which you can see if you watch my videos on that series. Here's our chaos table, 2 sides. Starts here. You get a 2 through 12 because you're rolling 2d6, and it'll tell you what happens. Clarifications and corrections. Then we get some counters. Oh, I didn't mention the cards. So we do have cards here as well. So this would be kind of a card-assisted kind of deal here. Here we have some counters. So this is a small, kind of very small. This is probably what, like an 1/8 or a 1/5, maybe, somewhere between there, of a page. Got some tigers on here with different colors. This would be, you can see on the units here, if I can get it to focus, yeah. You've got the 505th Heavy Panzer. Over here we've got Totenkopf. Then we have some American built units in Soviet colors, M35 Grants and some Shermans. Double-sided, as you would expect. Couple formation deck cards. So this is how you would act, you use these to kind of, well, we'll talk about that when we get into the rules. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here today. Pretty standard for lock and load publishing. Really, really nice. Easy to punch out, as you can see, right? Motorcycle infantry. Pop that back in there. And that's one. We've got this one here. Submachine gun infantry. I'll go over what all the symbology means on here as far as the numbers and stuff. It's a little busy, I guess. Some would say some might not like the way this is kind of laid out, but everything you need to know is right here. Oh, and the colors, you can see colored stripes and things, which help identify like the formations and so on and so forth. And we've got some markers here and some leaders. And here you have the leaders, and they're named, which is kind of a common thing for lock and load. Commissar Winkelkov, Lieutenant Putnikov. It's kind of cool. So you have concealment, wire, etc., mines. Out of command, that's important as well. As I mentioned, you get activated by formation. You have to be within command range of your HQ, things like that. We still have our like ops complete. You have disrupted. Here we have a wreck marker that wants to pop on out. As I mentioned, these come out real easy. They're pre-rounded. These are really nice counters. Production value for these games are pretty high, I would say. So here we have some Germans. Some more markers, of course. Here we have Fate, Rocket Barrage, Designated Formation. And then, of course, some leaders down here. We have some aircraft, a Stuka and a Focke-Wulf 189 Uhu. Totenkopf, Death's Head. That's an SS unit. For those that want to know that kind of thing. Here you can see 11th Panzer, 9th Panzer, 505th Heavy Panzer, 18th Panzer, 35th Panzer Grenadier, 25th Panzer Grenadier. The graphics of the tanks, I think, are pretty nice. Here we have the Das Reich division. These are dark. These are the SS divisions, and not so much to highlight them, of course. I was just talking about like the little tank graphics on here. I think are pretty neat. That's pretty nice in my opinion. Then we have our maps. So let me make some room here. We'll look at our maps real quick. So it looks like we have, well, here's our unit point cost sheet. Let's talk about that first. So you can brew up your own scenarios based on number of points. You can, do it yourself, basically. And these are what you would pay for the various units. So we have Soviet forces on one, and we have German forces on the other, as you might expect. All right. And then here we have map 10. So I actually turned them over and I shouldn't have. So this is map 10. So this is pretty standard for what you would expect. And so if you think about it, like this is Kursk, obviously, Kursk area. So this is further east than what we saw with the Panzer Grenadier Fire in the steppe, which is along the Ukrainian-Polish border. So further west, those maps are very brownish, and this is more green with some brown in it. Probably a little bit more traditional look. Here is map number 9. And again, so you've got contour lines in here. We've got water. Everything is pretty clear and easy to tell what it is. Here we have map 8, which has a town on it. Right? And the Cyrillic alphabet. And then we have map 7. Map 6. This town name is probably somewhat familiar to those of you who are familiar with the Battle of Kursk. And then, of course, we have map number 5, which has a rail line on it. I'll always see rail lines on tactical maps, but here's a rail line. Stick straight, as they would say. We have part of it right here, so they can join up together between maps 5 and 6. I suppose they would probably line up something along the lines of maybe like this, where you can see the rail line ends and the road ends, etc., etc. So that's map 5, map 6, etc. That is the bottom of the box. So we have seen all of the materials that you get with this particular game. I bought this during I forget what they call it now. Maybe it was the Blitzkrieg sale or Lightning sale or something along those lines a few months back. Along with the other 2 Nations at War games. That would be Desert Heat and White Star Rising. I had to think about that for a second. I also have the PC version on Steam of White Star Rising. That is the only one that has been converted. I do believe they are trying to find a new development team, a new programming team to finish that game, because the one that was doing it did not work out Do not have details on that. This is just what I've heard. And so here we have all of our stuff going back in. There is a good amount of stuff in here. Our dice. And there you have... Whoops, I'm shaking the table. Stop it, Joe. This is Stalin's Triumph. This will be the next game in our platoon-level combat series. So we will be taking a look at this in the near future, as well as Paths to Hell, Platoon Commander Deluxe Kursk, and potentially a couple more Fighting Formations from GMT, and GD42 from the Gamers Multiman Publishing. So that will do it. Thank you for watching. As always, I appreciate you guys taking your time to check out my stuff. I hope you found it useful, and will return for future endeavors on my part. In the meantime, if you would consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing, that would be outstanding and much appreciated. But for now, that's going to do it. My name is Joe. This has been Hexed Encountered, and until next time, happy gaming.